Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another weekly episode of Raw Parenting Unfiltered. Real families, real challenges, and real hope in Jesus Christ. I'm BJ Muir. I'm a heart-based parenting coach. So glad you're here with me, whether you're here with me tonight or on the replay. In the comment section, you can put your questions there, or you'll also see in the description a link, especially if you're watching on the replay, a link right there. I'm going to be answering questions live right now. I've got a group of questions that came in that I'm going to answer tonight. And those questions actually I'll answer now, but they'll probably also turn into YouTube content as well. But if you have a question, you can click on that link, put it in there, and I will see it and I will get to it at some future live stream for you. So thanks so much for being here. Woo, it has been a busy week. This is, for me personally, this is my first full week with my students. I'm an elementary school teacher, if you don't know that, when I'm not doing my own parenting here or making videos like this. Yeah, this is the first full week with kids. We had back to school night tonight. That's why I'm a little bit later than I'm normally here with. But we had a great time. Love getting to talk to families there. Love getting to work with kids. It's just a fantastic job to have, is to get to work every day with a group of kids and help them grow and learn. And I love getting to work with parents like you every night, helping you grow and learn and change and become a little bit more like Jesus in your parenting. I myself am always growing in that as well. I always tell you, there's a reason why it's called Jesus Help Me Parent and not BJ Help Me Parent, because I need help too. I make mistakes. I mess things up. I have big emotions. I go through all the things too. But I also know there's one who loves me no matter what, and who makes sure to speak to me to bring about heart change in my life, so I can start doing that in the lives of my own kids. They're doing great. We're back to school. Our kids are homeschooled, which is fun and brings its own challenges. So they're having fun getting back to that. We've got some new things going on today. They went line dancing. That was something they did. We went line dancing back in the summer one day, and so my wife absolutely loves line dancing. She learned to love it when she was in college, and there was a place she went to regularly and learned to line dance there. And it was just a really great community that just, if you didn't know, they taught you, and it was a lot of fun. And so she brought that love into our marriage. We really haven't line danced much at all. And now it's, 20 some odd years later, and we've got 8 kids. And this summer, we went to a local line dancing gathering, and all of us, and it was fun, and some of the kids had a lot of fun. All the kids had fun on some level, but some really had a lot of fun. So they went back. It's like a once a month thing. They went back. I was at school, which is probably a good thing. So as much as my wife loves dancing, and I'm really good at a lot of things, but like basic coordination stuff, no. Like, there's a reason why my brother was the all-star basketball, all-star baseball, all-star whatever he played player, and I was really good at art. So my big takeaway from the line dancing we did last month, and I kind of put this in these terms to get the laugh, but I meant it too. My big takeaway was, it's really important to know how to count to 8, apparently, in line dancing. Go ahead and hit a thumbs up if you think that's hysterical. Put something in the comments if you're like, you're just learning that. If you're today's years old when you're finding that out, tell us in the comments. But yeah, like, that was brand spanking new. But when they're like, oh yeah, no, you just do this and do that, and then you turn, and you kick, and you this, and you heel toe, whatever. No. And they were great. That community was great. And I'm glad I was there. They were very understanding because they let me dance. But it wasn't pretty. But I had fun that time. And this month, they went back and they had a great time. So you never know what your family's going to get into. We also have a couple kids doing ballroom dancing. Ooh, doesn't that sound fancy? Yeah. Including my son and one of my daughters. And they're doing great. And I'm trying. I'm not doing the lessons because I'm busy babysitting kids at home and everything. But yeah, no, again, like, no, I'm just stepping on my own toes. So anyway, enough about all that. Let's start getting to your questions. That's what you're here for. Here we go. I'm going to take a look over here at my side screen and read the question here first. Then I'll come right back here. All right. First question. I always forget to bring water in here when I start these, so hopefully I'm not clearing my throat this whole time. My 9-year-old son has a really hard time hearing any kind of feedback, especially when it comes to schoolwork or chores. For example, if I tell him, hey, you missed a spot when he's wiping a table, or that math problem isn't quite right, he immediately reacts like I insulted him. He slumps his shoulders, mutters things like, I can't do anything right, or something like that, and storms off in frustration. It feels like he takes even gentle correction with a personal attack. I want to help him understand that feedback isn't about his worth as a person. It's about improving the job he's doing. This is a great question. But right now, he just shuts down or lashes out. How can I guide him to accept feedback with a teachable spirit instead of taking it so personally? Great question. Yeah, great question. Your kid's struggling in a couple areas of the heart. They're struggling with um, insecurity. They're being a little defensive here in their hearts, and we want to teach them to be humble and teachable. So, how are we going to teach humility and teachability while also making sure we're connecting with them? So, does your kid struggle to accept feedback? Do they take any type of tip you give them on a chore or homework very personally, and they feel like you're attacking them rather than just trying to help them out? If that's the case, we need to work on several areas of the heart to help them move in the right direction. We want to start with relationship. We need to make sure that when we're asking children to change, that we have a relationship with them deep enough to sustain the challenge we're issuing. We've all had people in our lives who've challenged us to change. And when we've had a deeper relationship with them, it's easier to hear their feedback. It's easier to hear what they have to say because we know they're on our side. We know that they want what's best for us. And so we're more willing to accept their thoughts, their ideas, their feedback as change. But when we don't have that type of relationship, it's harder for us to hear. Think about even in family life. So this is just a stereotype. Let's just pretend that we have an uncle who drinks a little too much into the family. We all know it. We don't talk about it too much. Maybe we've challenged him and things like that, but like we don't really talk about it outside the family. Somebody outside the family starts talking about our uncle. We go right to his defense. Why? You don't have the right to say it. Why? You don't have the relationship with my uncle, right? Like that's what I'm talking about here. We want to have a deep enough relationship that our child can sustain the feedback. Now, I'm not saying that if your child's reacting like this, clearly your relationship is messed up. I just don't want to neglect the relationship component. And so you want to engage in one of the primary things you want to do is engage in relationship building activities. Simple things like when you see your child playing, getting down on the floor and playing with them for 5 or 10 minutes, and then telling them, wow, this is really fun. I'm so glad that I stopped and played with you. We have a great time together when we play together, don't we? Or stop them and say, hey, I'm going to the store. Why don't you come along and go to the store for a quick errand? And when you get out of the store, say, wow, we really do great teamwork together when we shop together. Thanks so much for your help. Those are ways we build relationship. Just that's what this is about. It's about getting to know each other and helping your child grow. So relationship building is really important because it's through connection with your child that you'll start to see change, that your child will be able to self-regulate, and that they'll be able to feel safe. Kids have three big needs. All humans have these needs, but felt safety, regulation, and connection. Felt safety, regulation, and connection. But the best part is when we work on connection, we're also working on the other two. That when we feel closer in relationship with somebody, we start to feel more regulated and we start to feel safer. And so that's why I want to stress to you working on relationship first. But beyond that, we have a heart that is hearing our well intended feedback the wrong way. This child is a bit too defensive and insecure. So they may need a little bit more of a confidence boost. Times where we're telling them what a great job they're doing. And I'm sure you're saying that at times, but being very specific in what we say with a kid. We also want to make sure that maybe there's times where we quietly accept approximately correct rather than perfect from kids. So maybe they did a chore and you notice it's 99% there. They missed one little thing. Maybe we let that go for this time. Not because, oh, this kid can't handle it, but because I need some times where I don't give you something to fix. So that way, there are times where you're just going to get that from me. You're just going to get positive feedback like that. But we still have to help this kid accept some constructive feedback. They have to grow in that area. They need to learn to be teachable and humble like that. This is going to start with some conversations about how when I give feedback, I really am just letting you know how you can make the job better. It really don't, it's not personal. But a strategy you can use in the moment is when your child does that chore or that activity and they come to you with it to get it checked, whether that's math homework or a cleaned bathroom or whatever it is, instead of you telling them what a great job they did and what they need to fix up, ask them to do that. One of the heart tools that we see God uses with us is transferring responsibility. He transfers responsibility to us to get us to grow. And so we want to continually be looking for opportunities to transfer responsibility to our kids. And so in this case, with a 9-year-old especially, I would suggest that you try transferring some responsibility. So the next time your kid comes to you with, let's say, a cleaned up bathroom, and they ask you, is it done, Mom? Say, well, let's go check. And when you get to the room, instead of telling him what a great job he did, ask him, what do you think about this job? What do you notice that you did well in here? Now, what you're doing is you're putting your child in an evaluative mode where you have put some distance between him and that job. And he's looking at it with a critical lens. And you invited him to look at it with a positive critical lens. What did you do well in here? Oh, this went well. I like how this. Oh, look what I did over here. He's even maybe getting a chance to brag. One of the things sometimes my kids will do is there's a special way you can fold the toilet paper and use, I don't know what they use, a button or something, and they wet it and they put their thumb on it and it makes it look like it's from the hotel, right? And sometimes they do. They don't always do that, and we don't require it, but some of them do that for fun. Like they would totally brag about that if we asked them that, right? So you're giving your kid a chance to brag about their work in some ways, but you're not calling it that. You're asking them to evaluate what went well here. But the second question is where you're going to really unlock potential to start hearing feedback that's more critical. And that's when you say, do you see anything in this room that you could have done better? And now it pushes them into a spot where they need to try and figure that out. Now, I'm not trying to turn this into a guessing game where I'm like, I see one thing you could have done better. Because that starts to feel for them like, okay, they know what's wrong, but they're not telling me. No, I'm just asking you to ask them, do you see anything that could be fixed up? And they might see something different than you. They might say something like, oh yeah, the towel over here really should be changed by now. Okay, why don't you go change that? Good job noticing that. And maybe you don't even bring up the other thing you noticed because they noticed something. But maybe as you start building this relationship and as they start getting used to this, when they notice that one thing that could get fixed up, try suggesting, yeah, you're right. That would look better if you did that. I also noticed here, this was another thing that you could do. That's a big step forward. And we want to help them take that step by helping them understand, yes, we can look at things and notice how they get better. That's what you could do in the moment. Outside of the moment, you want to help make mistakes something that's more comfortable in family life. So when you make a mistake, call it out. Whoops, I started prepping dinner and I'm starting to make breakfast for dinner tonight, but the menu says we're having chicken. Oh, well, I guess we're going to have eggs tonight. That's okay. Things like that so that kids start saying, oh, mom and dad make mistakes and it's okay. They just kind of let it roll. That helps them feel like it's okay to make mistakes. Something else you're doing outside of the moment is working on self-worth. You're going to be using scripture. When you're thinking about Bible passages that we're reading, we're going to be reading Bible passages where Jesus is communicating all about the worth of people. Think about the woman with the issue of blood. She interrupts, quote unquote, Jairus when Jairus and Jesus are headed to Jairus's house to go heal his daughter. And Jesus doesn't just heal her, he calls her out. makes her stand publicly before him and say, yes, it was me who touched your cloak, your garment. I just was hoping to get healed. And when he does that, he then calls her daughter. Why? Because she'd been an outcast. She'd been socially put out because of this medical condition. And she didn't know what it was like to be a part of the community, to be called daughter again, to be part of the family. And so he used a very big family word to say something about how much she's worth. And so that's a great story to read in this situation and to call that out. When you're working on Bible memorization, picking out Bible verses that talk about the plans he has for you, the way he's created you so uniquely, and working on those types of Bible verses, because you're putting that truth into your child's heart. And the Holy Spirit is there waiting to activate that truth in just the right time. It might be this week, it might be this month, it might be a decade from now. You never know when they're going to need that truth. But plant those seeds of scripture now in your child's heart and work on that self-worth, that concept of self, that they are a beautiful, amazing, unique creation of Jesus Christ, and that he's called them to be part of his family. That's when we start working on this and we start accepting feedback a lot better, because we recognize that this isn't about me. This is about the job over here. This is going to take time. It's not something it's like, oh, quick fix, 1, 2, 3. But you stick with it and you're going to start finding that change at a heart level really does happen. Thanks so much for that question. It's a question lots of parents struggle with because we have a lot of kids who take things that way at times. All right, let's take a look at the next question. If you've got a question for me, down in the description, I've got a link right there. Click on it and send me your question. And if I'm not answering it here right now, I'll be answering it in a future live stream. Here we go. As a parent, excuse me, there's that whole, I didn't bring water in here. Someone needs to send me an email, bj@jesushelpmeparent.com next Wednesday at 7 p.m. BJ, don't forget your water. Right? Do that for me. And I will get my water, hopefully. Here we go. BJ, as a parent, I really struggle with understanding the right role consequences should play in my child's life. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else struggle with this? Okay. Let's talk about consequences. Do you find it hard to figure out what role consequences should play in your parenting? Lots of parents are just like you. Consequences do have a role, but oftentimes we put them in the wrong role. Plenty of times, and I'm guilty at this at times too, are kids doing something wrong. They're misbehaving, and our response is to inform them of how bad the consequences are going to be. We say things like, you keep doing that, and this is what's going to happen. Or, oh, that's it. No more Nintendo for you tonight. Or what? But we just throw out the consequences like that, as if we're expecting that kid to all of a sudden go, wait, what'd you say, Mom? What'd you say, Dad? Oh, I didn't realize those were the consequences. Well, clearly I'm in the wrong here. I'm so sorry. Would you please forgive me? Oh, I can't believe this behavior I have here. No, they're not going to do that, right? No child reacts. If you have a child that reacts that way, bj@jesushelpmeparent.com. I want to hear your story, but I'm not going to get any emails, okay? They don't react that way. How do they react? They typically double down. Why? They're feeling cornered. At a heart level, they're feeling backed into a corner. We're hoping to bring about change. They're feeling backed into a corner and like they got to fight for survival. So what do we do instead? I'm not saying get rid of all consequences. I want you to put them in the right place. In the moment, when we see a child doing something wrong, that's not the time for consequences. That's the time for some other strategies. We can look at how God helps us when we're doing something wrong. He usually starts with his word. Most times when you and I are not on track with Jesus, he starts with his word. Whether it is the daily Bible verse of the day, suddenly is like, whoa, I'm dealing with that. Or we go to church and pastor's sermon really hits us hard because it's about something I'm struggling with and pastor doesn't know about that. Or the song on the radio station, the preacher on the podcast, whatever it is, God's hitting us with his word. And he's hoping that we change. Because when we change because of his words, things go in the right direction. Things get a lot better. We want to do that with our kids. We want to try our words. We want to say things like, whoa, 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 that was disrespectful. Try that again, but with respect. We're like, whoops, try that one more time. Or, that sounds like a complaint. Try saying it again as a request. Things like that are giving kids a second chance. Sometimes they've got a lot of emotion built up in them, and our words aren't enough. Sometimes the thing they did is more than what just words should handle at that point. That's oftentimes where we look again. What does Jesus do with us? He usually tells us to slow down and sit down, take a break, calm down, you know, find a little calm space and come back when you're ready to talk to me. That's what Jesus says with us. That's what we're going to say with our kids. No, we're not. Please, please, please don't do timeout. Don't send your kid over there, set a timer, tell him angrily, you got to sit there for 10 minutes, you're 10 years old yet. No, that's not appropriate. That doesn't work for heart change. That's just a punitive penalty box like in hockey. The referee doesn't care if the hockey player ever changes. They just care that they're sitting over there learning the consequences there. Don't do that. Is it okay to have your kid, hey, have a seat right here, calm down, come back and talk to me when you're ready? Absolutely. That's perfectly fine. And children who have the ability to self regulate, this is a great little take a break, calm corner strategy. Many kids can do that, and that's great. But I want you to recognize that's the goal. Some of our children are a little too young to just do that, and this is going to be harder for them. They don't have all the self regulating systems built in place at this point. Some of our kids are struggling with their own emotions, and this isn't going to communicate what we're trying to communicate, which is, I'm on your side. I'm trying to help you through a difficult time. This is going to communicate distance, and that's not what we want to communicate. So sometimes we're going to have kids just have a seat right here. That's okay. But if your kid's over here, or maybe you're just over here, you're not comfortable with that part, you want to try modifying that. We're still needing to do it because you see, when children's emotions have gotten too big to address the original problem, we have a new problem coming down so we can get back to the real problem originally. And so to do that, maybe we need to sit down with them and say, you know what, let's sit down together, take a break. We're going to do some breathing. We're giving them their thermos, their water bottle to take a drink. Some kids are big fans of taking a drink of water. Breathing. I had one parent who would have their kid lay down on their belly and he would do some like deep tissue massaging on their back for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And like the kid, it's just what they needed. I've had kids, my own kids, some of them, who, when they're struggling with that, I go, wow, this is just really big for you. Do you need a hug? And they hug. That doesn't mean I'm saying what you did was right over here. It means I'm recognizing this is a tough moment for you, and I'm here with you in it to get you through the tough part so we can deal with what went wrong over here. But we're going to take a little break here. And when we're done, whether that's independently or with some help, we're going to come back to mom or dad or whatever grown up is involved in your life. We're going to have a little conversation about it. This is not a 20-minute lecture. This is a two-way conversation where we're asking questions. If they did something wrong, we need to say, hey, what did you do wrong? To make sure they understand what they did wrong. Why was that wrong? Okay. And what are you going to do differently next time? Let's come up with a plan for the next time this happens. Because guess what? It's going to happen again. Something like it's going to happen again. Let's have a plan so maybe we can avoid this and do it the right way instead. That's when this becomes a teaching moment. If they weren't doing anything wrong, they just needed a bit of a break because they were just getting overwhelmed. So I'm not going to ask them, what did you do wrong? I'm going to say something like, hey, what feeling were you feeling? Why were you feeling that way? What caused that? Okay, what can you do differently next time? So that way, when that feeling comes on, you can be a little bit more productive. Maybe you don't need to take a break. It's okay that you did, but maybe you don't need to. You know, a part of being emotionally mature is being able to recover quicker from difficult, challenging situations. And so, yeah, it's perfectly fine if you need to take a break, to have a little pause moment, pause and process, head over to the calm corner, whatever it is. But if you're able in the moment to adjust to it, that's a sign of greater emotional maturity. And we want to encourage that in our kids. And so that's what we're gonna be doing all of this. You might be saying, BJ, what happened to consequences? I'm getting there. But all these other things are things we want to do first, because those things are going to help get a kid back on track a lot better than consequences are. Okay, BJ, where do consequences come in? They come in next. We don't use consequences because we couldn't get a kid to calm down. No. You never want to look at a kid who's screaming, yelling, whatever, trying to calm down. You're trying all the calming things. You never want to look at them and be like, that's it. You know what? Here's what's going to happen. You're not going to see change now. Just unleashing the consequences. We can't consequence a kid into a good heart. Doesn't work. But consequences do have a teaching role. Consequences are not the new, better word for punishment. Punishment is fundamentally different. Punishment is about justice and paying back for what you did. Consequences are teaching tools. Consequences are discipline. Discipline, the root word there, disciple. Well, disciple is all about learning. That's what consequences should do. So we want to, after a kid's calmed down, after we've had that little conversation and we've said, okay, we've got a plan, let's go try again. We want to think about, do I need any consequences here? I would argue that many times we don't need consequences because they just aren't needed. The conversation addresses it. All the work we do up front with our words, with pausing and processing and talking about, all that usually does a lion's share of the work. However, we don't want to throw consequences out because they are teaching tools. Your kid keeps not doing their homework for school. There's time for a consequence. Not, you don't get to play your video games. Like, that doesn't relate. Unless your kid was playing video games instead of doing it, then maybe it does. I would rather see a consequence like, you have to check your homework in with me for the next 2 weeks, for a little while here. Maybe it's a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, until I see you doing it regularly. And then we're going to try you doing it without me. And we'll see if we get another email from your teacher. And then we're also going to email the teacher and say, here's what we're doing for the next 2 weeks. And then we're going to try it without. If one day goes by, please email me. Right? Like, we want to plan to teach the right behavior there. Or if your kid, just think about this. Your kid's running around the front yard and they're getting a little too close to the street, and you keep talking to them using your words. They're not listening. You've tried bringing them back. Why don't you have a break? Calm down. Let's come up with a plan for what you can do instead of running so close to the street there. Okay, we tried that. It's still not working because you decided to stay out front and watch. And one time it didn't happen the same way. Okay, come on back. What's the consequence here? You can play, but it's going to have to be in the backyard. Because I'm going to be busy making dinner, and you can play in the backyard only because you're not being safe out front. We'll have some practice sessions of playing out front when I'm out here. And when I start seeing you be safe again, we'll try this again. But right now, it's going to be back there. So that's where consequences come in. They are thoughtful, well-planned, thought-through ideas for teaching our children how to do it better, how to learn. That's where they go in there. But when we use them as like a shock and awe moment to get our kids' attention, they get their attention, but it doesn't ever lead to the right outcomes. It leads instead to increased emotions, bigger battles, and a loss for everybody. You start using consequences like that, and you'll start seeing true heart change. Thanks so much for your question. All right. So let's see here. Gonna go here. I'm thinking about the last 2 questions I've been asked here, but especially that last one, and it made me think about the mini course that I just updated. So it's called Connected Cooperation. I didn't have this on my agenda to talk about tonight, but it relates. Connected Cooperation. So it's a 3-module mini course designed to address the very basic things that parents are asking. Like, how do I work with my kids? How do I get my kids to cooperate? And what do I do when they don't cooperate? And how do I do that in a way that's loving and caring, and yet also says, we need to do this. I need to be firm, not harsh, but I do need to be firm here. So how do I do that? Connected Cooperation. You want to head over. I'll put the link down below. Although I've been forgetting a lot lately, but I'll try to remember this one. I'll put the link down below. JesusHelpMeParent.com/connected cooperation. JesusHelpMeParent.com/connected cooperation. If you go there, you'll see the mini course. It's super affordable. There's an audio only version if you're one of my friends who likes to like plug and play and just go and do your stuff. And there is a video based version. If you get the video based version, the audio one is just thrown in for free. But if you're more of an audio person, go for the audio one, and you're going to love it. And you start listening to those or watching those videos. I'm going to show you how to strengthen your relationship with your kid, how to kind of get things done, not because we need to get things done, though that's a benefit, but because when we're getting things done, we get a lot of opportunities to give positive feedback and build into the relationship and build a lot of great heart qualities at a heart level. And then what do I do when my kid says no, when they refuse to do something, when they're uncooperative? How do I handle that and stay connected in relationship with my kid? That's the second module. And the third module is really focused on how do you adapt some of this for your kid's personality, for their different ages and stages, for special needs, for kids who come maybe from a background of trauma, or children with big emotions. How do we help kids with those types of backgrounds with these same tools, but modified for them? That way it works for them too. So JesusHelpMeParent.com/connected cooperation. You'll find it there. Just go ahead and grab it. You'll be so glad that you did. All right. Let's look at the next question. This is a good one. What do I do when sibling conflicts are already in full swing? The yelling, the screaming, and the fighting have started. It feels too late to step in. Have you ever been doing something around the house and suddenly a fight breaks out between your kids in another room? You hear the yelling, the screaming, the fighting, and you've got no idea what to do at that point. Yeah. Well, here's what you want to do. Or let me start with what you don't want to do. What you don't want to do is the thing we all naturally do. We go in there and we start refereeing. We start telling, hey, everybody, come down in here. Let's go. What's going on in here? What's going on? You like, look at how I'm approaching it already. Like, my eyebrows are like, this is not the right way to do it, right? And this kid starts to tell us something, and we're like, you did what? I can't believe you did that. What? Wait. He did what? You didn't tell me you did that. What? And we get all lit up and it just gets bigger. This isn't working. Being a ref doesn't work. It's not productive. It's not healthy. It's not what we see God doing with us. What we see instead is a coach. We want to be our kids' coach. And so when our kids are starting to fight and argue and we hear the screaming and everything in the other room, we don't want to ignore that. We want to go in there. But a coach handles it differently. A coach makes sure that the players know, I'm on your side. I'm on the same team as you. But right now, we need to slow down. Let's recognize if we've got yelling, screaming, fighting going on, family life is moving too fast, emotions are getting too big, we need to slow down. What's our go-to strategy for slowing family life down? Finding a little spot to calm down. Taking a break over here, getting a glass of water over there. Calm down, take a little break, come back and see me when you're ready. We might have to do that with our kids. We might decide to do it with them right there. You know what, kids? Let's all go to the kitchen right now. Everyone's grabbing a water bottle and sitting at the table. Let's take a break together. That's perfectly fine. But we need to stop this at this point. We're not going to solve it while tensions are high. We have a new problem. The new problem is not the disagreement, but the fact that tensions are high. So we need to lower the temperature a bit so we can have a conversation. What we're doing here is we're going to look at Matthew 18. Matthew 18 is the classic scripture that's used to describe what should happen when there's conflict in a church. And we're going to use that, but in a family model to help. The best way to resolve conflict is go to each other. That's Matthew 18. Go to each other. If that doesn't work, go get some others. In family life case, it's going to be us. Because then if that doesn't work, in the scripture it says, go to the elders. Well, we're the elders. We're going to go right to that. And then if that doesn't work, you excommunicate the person from the church, hoping that they get restored and come back. We're not excommunicating any kid from our family, okay? But we are going to try to get kids to talk to each other. And so when the fighting starts, first we're going to hit pause on the whole thing. Everybody just needs to take a break. Come on back when we're cool and we can talk. But your job when you go to take a break is to own your part. I don't want to hear all the stuff your sibling did wrong. Because see, that's what happens. We go take a break and we lawyer up and we get ready to go to war again. No, your job is to go back and own your part. Every argument, everybody's got 5%. Okay, somebody might be 95% wrong here, but everybody's got 5%. Then you want to make a decision. As a parent, you might want to call the kids back together and coach them through that conversation. And I'll show you how to do that. But you also might want to instead to handle this by going to one kid over here, one kid over there, and having separate conversations. The benefit of that takes a little longer, but there's no stage to perform in front of. And you don't have to deal with this kid over here. I didn't do that when you're talking to this kid over here, right? So it does avoid that, but it takes a little bit longer to do. Either way, what we're ultimately trying to do is we're trying to see what really happened here. We usually have a sneaking suspicion of what really happened here, but we're also trying to encourage them to have the conversation. So rather than them both pleading their case to you, like you're King Solomon, and you're going to make a decision here, have them talk to each other. See, we need to train our kids on how to talk to each other. Remember, if you're married, you might remember doing some premarital counseling where the person who's taking you through it probably taught you about how to resolve conflict in marriage. I hope they did. If they didn't, let me know. I'll get you a couple videos on that. But hopefully they taught you how to resolve conflict. And a lot of times, remember those like I message statements where you said things like, I feel upset when you do this. Please, whatever you want them to do, right? Starts with I. That's why we call it an I message. Rather than saying like, you always and you blah, blah. I feel up blah, blah, blah when you blah, 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 right? We can teach our kids that. That works at a kid level. Is it beautiful and perfect? No, it's messy. That's being a kid. But we can teach it to them. And yes, I have seen kids use this, and it is amazing when they do. And so when you bring them back together, encourage them to use their I messages here. Encourage them to talk to each other. And when they do, you try to stay out. You stay here like the coach. Okay, so just from overhearing what happened here, it feels like you would be a good person to start us off here. Why don't you give your sister an I message here or give your brother an I message here and then let them talk. Now, this kid might come back with like, but dad, you say, hold on, I want to hear your, I know he was probably doing something horrible too. I get it. Let's deal with what he said first. Deal with that, and then get to this kid. And you're encouraging this back and forth dialogue. And you're trying as much as possible to stay out of it and encourage the dialogue. And you're asking questions like, okay, now that we've taken responsibility for our parts, now that we understand how we're making the other person feel, what can we do to move forward? How can we fix this so that you both walk away feeling good about this? And let's face facts, a lot of times our kids' problems, they're yelling, they're screaming, everything is usually over misunderstandings, miscommunications. Sometimes it's intentional bothering, hurting, picking on each other things. But a lot of times it's miscommunication stuff. And sometimes kids feel like, well, I didn't mean it. Like, oh, I said that, but I didn't mean it that way. I get it, but that's how they took it that way. Just like if I'm walking down the street, I use this example all the time. If I'm walking out of my classroom and I go out the door and boom, I bump into a teacher with lots of books and they fall over the ground. What do? Yeah. And all the kids are like, you say sorry. Yeah. I say, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me help you pick those up. I make an apology of my words. I make an apology of action because I wasn't trying to do that. And then I tell kids, sometimes we bump into each other with our words too. We say things that we didn't mean to come across that way, but we bumped into each other. And so we do the same thing we would do if we bumped into them physically. We apologize. We say, oh, I'm so sorry. That's not, I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry it came across that way. Great. Okay. And when you genuinely mean that, boom, it's great. But we want to encourage that conversation to happen. That's how we're going to solve that problem in the moment. Now, we also want to be thinking about what else we might need to do. For example, if this argument keeps happening over the same toy, or this problem keeps happening when they're away from us outside in the backyard, or whatever it might be, we want to think about adapting some of those things. Boys, I notice that whenever you're playing together, you do a great job, except when you're playing with this toy here. And so I'm going to hold on to this toy. How long are you taking it, Dad? Oh, the month or the week. No, no, no. I'm going to hold on to it until we start working on solving problems more peacefully, boys. And once you do that, we'll bring this toy back out and we'll see how you do with it. Okay? We'll try it out again. That's motivating them now. If I tell them till it's in the Friday box, or it's gone for the month or 2 weeks, whatever, well, they know they don't need to change it all because nothing's going to change for them. Okay, I start behaving, but I don't get the toy back any sooner. If you say, when I start seeing this, I'll know you're ready to try this again, different story. But now I need to do some work with my kids. I need to teach them those I messages and how to resolve conflicts. I probably also want to do some relationship building activities where we do things together and we play games together and have fun together, so they start appreciating each other more. I want to maybe even consider doing some honoring activities where I challenge them to find ways to honor each other and serve each other in ways that are loving and compassionate, that help build into the relationship. And I want to encourage them to pray for their siblings more. Pray for your relationship with your brother. Pray for your relationship with your sister. Jesus wants to speak into it. Jesus gave you these siblings on purpose to teach you a lot about how to relate to others in the world. And your family and your siblings is your social laboratory where you're going to learn how to do that. And so pray into those relationships and ask Jesus to teach you everything he wants you to learn through those relationships. You start doing that with your kids, suddenly that screaming doesn't happen as often. Oh, don't get me wrong, it's still going to happen. Doesn't happen as often. Finally, I want to offer you a perspective shift. We often try to get rid of all conflict. That's not really healthy, though. Conflict can be healthy if it's handled the right way. And sibling conflicts, we don't want them overrunning family life. They're going to wear us out, right? But we want some of them there because that's how our kids are going to learn how to resolve conflicts. They're going to happen. Okay, we know they're going to happen. We want to reduce them, but I don't think we want to eliminate them. I probably need to chew on that idea a little bit more. Maybe, as they say, sit down, have a cup of tea, go for a walk, and think about it more. But there's an opportunity to learn when I'm in a conflict with a sibling. And so we don't want to squelch that opportunity to learn or totally eliminate it. But boy, it'd be great if we can reduce it for sure. Thanks so much for your question. If you have more questions about sibling conflicts, I have a whole host of videos here on the channel. I'll put a couple of links in the description down below. And if I'm filming this and I'm showing it to you in a short clip, I'll put some right up there too. So thanks so much for watching. All right, that just felt like a YouTube video to me. I had to do the ending. Let's see here. Oh, I got one more question here. It's starting to get a little late here. Oh, how can I help my 8-year-old calm down when he gets really upset or angry? Once he's worked up, nothing I say seems to help. And I'm not sure how to guide him back to calm. What a great question. I love how these are phrased sometimes. This is fantastic. Whoever asked this question, thank you. Hit the thumbs up if you're like, yep, me too, BJ. I'm waiting to hear this answer. Okay, so how do you help a kid who is overwhelmed with anger, anxiety, worry, stress, and they're really loud and filled with big emotions, and everything you're trying isn't working? You want to help them get back to calm. How you do it is as important as what we're doing. So I want to give you my simple 4-step process that I put in place lots of times when I'm working with kids, and it's called CALM. CALM stands for connect, attune, lean, and map. And we have a whole series of CALM videos right on the YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description down below that you can check out, a whole playlist on there. A lot of those are focused on worry and anxiety, but this works with anger, with sadness, with worry, with any emotion that a kid's overwhelmed by, because fundamentally your child's being overwhelmed by their emotions. If this is their brain, the lower part of their brain's just coming out and playing where all their emotions are. Their fight, flight, freeze, appease mechanism is active, and they're flipping their lid. And we're trying to help them calm down. So let me walk you through calm. And if you're familiar with me talking about like taking a break and pausing and processing and then having a positive conclusion, calm is that same thing, but with a lot more parental involvement. And so for some parents, they love using calm because it just feels a little bit better for them as they're working with their kids. So the C and the A explain the kind of taking a break, pausing and processing part. And the L and the M are all about that positive conclusion part. So let's look at C and A first. Calm and attune. They sort of are connected, but you have to start with calm. So many times, you have to start with connect. So many times when our kids are getting upset with their emotions, we rush to a strategy. We see them like, oh, you're getting really angry. Here, go do your breathing, or here, get your fidget, whatever. And it doesn't work. And then we get frustrated with the strategy and we say it doesn't work and we throw our hands up. It's often because we didn't start with connect. Earlier in this live stream, I was talking to you about the importance of connection, that kids and all people have three fundamental needs: a need for felt safety, for regulation, and for connection. We want to work on all three of those things. But when we work on connection, the other two come along. We develop self regulation abilities and felt safety when we work on connection with a child, when we're building into the relationship. So, in that moment, when your child is overwhelmed with emotions, instead of trying to distract them, instead of trying to get them to a strategy, just be there in that moment. This is not a bad feeling your kid's having. It's a feeling they're having. God gave them feelings. God gave them emotions. God doesn't give us bad gifts. So the emotion is not bad. What we do with things with emotions sometimes might be bad. We start hitting people and things like that. Oh, yeah, okay. But the emotion itself is not bad. Let's work through it. Let's sit there for the moment. We're going to get down on their level. We're going to make eye contact with them. Maybe we put our arms and our hands on their shoulders, or an arm around them as we make eye contact with them. And we say simple things like, let me see your eyes. Wow, this is a really tough moment for you, isn't it? Or, wow, this is really hard for you right now, isn't it? Or, wow, you're really feeling deeply about this right now, aren't you? Or, boy, you're really angry about this, aren't you? Those statements are connection statements. They are relationship building moments where we are telling our child, I see you. This is hard. I get it. We are not saying, hey, this is totally appropriate. Oh, yeah, no, go ahead and scream like crazy. Go ahead and hit the wall or whatever you're doing. We're not saying that. We're just saying, this is hard. I get it. It's hard right now. And when we say that, our kid will respond in a couple of ways. Some kids are going to just like drop their guard, drop their shoulders and go, yes, like it is hard or whatever. Some kids are going to look when we say, wow, you're really angry about this, aren't you? No, I'm just so frustrated. Okay. That just clarifies it a little bit for me. And some kids, when we say, oh, you're really angry, you're really anxious, they're going to let us know. They're like, yes, I am. I'm so angry because blah, 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 blah. What just happened when they did that? Okay. What's happening? They're connecting, but think about it. They're using their words now. They can't use their words down here as easily. They can use their words from up here a lot. So we are getting them on a brain level. We are getting them as much as possible out of the lower brain and into the upper brain where their logic, their reasoning, their verbal skills are. And they might yell at us at that moment. Yes, it is. Whatever they say at that moment. We're going to stay calm so they can borrow from our calm in that moment. And we're just going to acknowledge, yeah, this is really hard. Then we're going to switch to a tune. And we're going to say things like, why don't we go get a drink of water? Why don't we go have a seat? I'll rub your back. Would you like a hug? Whatever the thing is that your kid needs. Why don't we do some jumping jacks? Whatever the strategies are that your kid needs. And I'm just starting right now to make some videos about all those strategies. So wait a few weeks, or if you're watching this now a couple of months later, hopefully those are all over my YouTube channel. But if not, wait a few weeks if you're here right now. And you're going to see some videos all about different strategies you can use, because some parents are just like, I don't know what strategies to use. I feel overwhelmed by the number of them out there. There are ways we can minimize that and still find the ones that work for our kids. But we're going to find something that works for our kid. We're going to help them calm down. We're going to do some deep breathing. We're going to get to a place where, yes, we're calmed down. That's the C and the A. Connect and attune. If the attuning's not working, it often means we need to go back and connect some more. Kid just needs more connection. But connect and attune. Then we move into L and M. Lean and map. Lean on God's truths and map a plan forward. And these sort of interact together. We want to say things like, I can understand why you're angry about this. But I'm thinking that, Jesus calls us to this, and give them a truth right there. Help them understand what really they should be going towards. If you stop there, it's going to turn into you like beating your kid over the head with a Bible. We don't want to do that. We do want to lead them to truth, but then make it practical and give them a practical map of a plan forward. Sometimes that lean and map sounds like the positive conclusion conversation. Now that we've calmed down, let's talk about what happened. What did you do that was wrong over there? Why was it wrong? What are you going to do differently next time? Or maybe they didn't do anything wrong. They just got really upset. Okay, now that we've got that, we know that maybe your kid's really worried. We know that, God's never going to leave us nor forsake us. So let's talk about, what were you feeling there? Okay, what was causing that feeling? Next time that happens, what could you do differently so you don't get overwhelmed by that feeling? And come up with a real practical plan. Think about these two questions. What can your kids say differently? What can they do differently? If you can answer those two questions, you've got a basic plan and they can start acting on it. When you're done with CALM, you look at your kid and say, okay, you've got a plan. Go try again. Get back into family life and go for it. You've got a plan now. And that's the wonderful thing. We've helped our kid through this and helped them move forward when they're getting really upset. I'm telling you, you do this with your kid, you will see a change because it starts with relationship. Jesus does this for you and me all the time. When we get upset, when we get scared, when we get worried, when we get angry, whatever it is, Jesus meets us in that place. He doesn't condemn us for the emotion that we're feeling right there. If we've done something wrong, he addresses that thing we did wrong. If we haven't done anything wrong, he offers that comfort. But even if we did do something wrong, he addresses the wrong and he offers comfort at the same time. By the end of that conversation with Jesus that we have with him, we leave a changed person with a plan for what to do differently next time. We want to offer that to our children too. You start doing that with your kids, and you'll start seeing change slowly but surely. And if you want more ideas for helping your kids when they're experiencing these big emotions, you want to check out the videos I'll link down below and even up here. Thanks so much for watching. All right. That's what we want to do with our kids. Again, that felt like a YouTube video, so I just kind of did the ending there. But anyway, that's what we want to do with our kids. We want to help them with their emotions, not belittle them for their emotions, tell them it's wrong to feel that. We want to say, nope, here's what you want to do differently. Let's help you get through this. That's often what we need to, because the truth is we have some big emotions too that we struggle with. And as much as we're trying to help our kid, we're often trying to help ourselves. So do this work in yourself so you can also do this work with your kid. Jesus wants to use you. You don't have to be perfect at this parenting thing. You have to do two things. You have to trust that he is faithful and you need to show up. Trust that Jesus is the one who's going to do the stuff. And just show up as you are and ask him to work through you and on you at the same time. Okay. My friends, I'm going to be back here next week, every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, answering your questions. If you have a question, link is down in the description. Go ahead and put it there. If any of my answers to any of these questions helped you, give a thumbs up and even share this video with somebody that would also enjoy it. Because let me tell you something, that's a great way to tell the YouTube algorithm, hey, this stuff's really helpful and other families should hear it. And it's a great way to let me know, yeah, BJ, keep doing this. This is helping me. Thanks so much for watching. Can't wait. Hope you're having a great week. It's Thursday tomorrow, Friday next. I love what I do, but I also love my time with my family on a weekend too. So have a great Thursday and Friday and the rest of your week. I'll see you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.